Yo, yo, yo. Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. Our jam around here is to bring you great information, organize it, and deliver it to you in a way that you can create a better practice and a better life. And today, I share a recent webinar. It was so good, called The Culture Catalyst, Igniting Practice Growth Through Leadership, in which Miranda Beeson and Adriana, two amazing coaches of ours, walk you through a process in how to improve your culture. So please listen up. I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started with today's webinar. We have Kirk on today, and I see Behrendt is here, though he claims he's not talking. We'll see about that. And then the lovely Adriana is joining me. So excited to be chatting about culture today. And really, most importantly, the piece that we're going to highlight is how leadership styles and your leadership can affect the culture in your practice. So this is something that Adriana and I are both super passionate about. So I'm excited to have her here with me to talk about it today. And it's going to make a huge impact in your practice. So listen up, take notes, get a pen ready. You're going to be taking notes for sure. We're going to get started, though, by Kirk giving us a shout out to our golden ticket. What is this thing, Kirk? What's this all about?
Yeah, so we talk about this a lot. This is one of those things that we have so much fun doing. We created a study club. And it was for people that really wanted to create a better practice, a better life. Many years ago, it was called the Inner Circle. And it grew and grew and grew. And we just wanted to see where it was going to go. Well, it grew quite a bit. And then we moved it to what we call the To the Top Study Club. It's the best thinkers in all of dentistry. It's people just like you that are trying to create a better practice and better life. And they're around other entrepreneurs, and we facilitate the information. It's once a quarter where we put some of the best thinkers in the room, and you get to benefit from it. I never want to be the smartest person in any room, and now I'm not. So it's pretty cool, and you get to learn. And it's so cool that we believe in it so much. Here's my challenge to you. You get a ticket for free. It's called the Golden Ticket. You can show up, and you can take all the information. You can hang out with us. You can be energized for a whole day. It's from 8 to 3 on a Friday. Who doesn't have one Friday? And you can be home with your family. If you hate it, just go, I hated it, but I'm taking all the information. We'll high five. You could still be our friend. But I know that won't happen. So come check it out. It's very lonely trying to figure this stuff out on your own. It's hard to build a business. Don't try to do it. That's why we created. And Gina on our team, Gina, she will facilitate that process. She will be your own personal concierge, and she'll set the whole thing up. So welcome.
Welcome. And on that same note, taking that community and really trying to make it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible to help facilitate having a better practice and a better life is the new BPA. And we're improving the BPA every single day. What is the BPA, Kirk?
Oh, thank you for asking. So it's called the Best Practices Association. We always wanted to I want to create something, and we want to create something that goes way beyond us. I want to leave the campfire in better condition than we found it, which means I love this profession. And so we created it to do 3 different things. It's real simple. You can do it on your own, where you can get great information. You can do it in a group, which is the To the Top Study Club, which we told you about already. Or you could have us help you do it. We can assign a pro coach and help you get all of this done. If you've tried to do it, don't try to do it anymore. We will help you do that whole process. Now, what's really cool about the BPA, I'm really passionate about. We had our meeting this morning, and I was on fire with Miranda and Behrendt because it's so cool what we're going to be releasing in the weeks that follow. It's going to be an ever-present resource for you to think better about your practice. You're going to go back between patients. You're going to go, I have a question about this. And you're going to see some of the best dentists and team members around the country offering best practices from the best practices. Your life will get better just by showing up. Here's the cool thing. It's $99. Who doesn't have $99? And actually, I would give it away for free, but like we want people that are serious students back there. And so join us. We have a mobile app and we're making improvements all the time. Barrett, anything you would add? Look at that. I just called that.
Yeah, I was a real dentist, and I would be nothing to spend $1,200 to go see someone talk about clinical or leadership for 4 or 5 hours. And for $1,200 a year, $99 a month, you have hundreds of hours of clinical masterclasses, hundreds of hours of practice management and leadership, dozens, if not hundreds of downloadable tools. Like, it is all right there. It's $99. We get calls all the time. Can you share that? Can you help us with that? With this 3 years ago at this podcast, you said this, can we have that? It's all there. You just got to go get it. And we have an awesome community. Just get in there. You're going to love it. It will be worth every cent. It's a no-brainer. Like, we shouldn't even have to talk about it. It's so awesome.
Well, on that note, we'll stop talking about it. And you guys saw the QR code. So if you want to come check it out, do so and get a little taste of what we're all about. I'll pull it back up with the best practices show. If you haven't listened to our podcast, it's great small snippets, perfect for your drive in and out of work. That'll give you an idea of what ACT is all about and help you to have an idea of what you might experience once you're a part of that community. Not if you're a part of it, but once you are. Just a little housekeeping before we get started today. We're on Zoom and we want to hear from you. We're going to be posting the CE today in the chat. So just a little orientation for you. The chat box is right at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to put questions, comments, concerns. We love to hear from you throughout the webinar. Barrett and Kirk are going to be our administrative support.
I was going to say,
today.
is this slide for our attendees or for Kirk? Because I'm learning.
Take it as you'd like. If you would like to post a reaction, if we ask you to, or you'd like to, you have a reactions tab there at the bottom. You can share with us through emoji how you're feeling about things today. And then on that lower left-hand side, you'll see in the yellow circle, that is where you can make sure that your video and audio are managed well. Every now and then a kid runs through the background and, everybody's embarrassed by that. So let's just mute and get going from there so that we can make sure we're all on the same path together today. So we're going to be talking about culture. And mostly about how you can ignite your culture through leadership. And so right off the jump, we want to jump in on what is organizational culture. It's a buzzword. We've been hearing culture for really a couple of decades now. It's become like what everyone talks about in the workplace. And so we want to talk a little bit about what is culture. And, I know Adriana is really passionate about culture. So I want you to kick us off with just talk to us a little bit about culture, what it means to you and what it's meant to you as a coach.
Ooh, thank you. Well, culture starts with our core values, right? And I know Kirk is dying to jump in. I see his mouth moving. This is one of his favorite topics. He's warming up. I just had an amazing on-site that had to turn virtual. And that was our big topic. So this is so timely. Our culture really is the culmination of how our shared beliefs, our norms, and our values all come together. It can be the most natural thing, and sometimes it can be a bit of a struggle. But what I find is sometimes it's also hard to put into words. So that's a challenge or an action item I'm going to throw out to all of you is define the feel, the vibe, the culture of your team or your practice. And I did it with a team who's been together for years yesterday, and they struggled a little bit, not because it's bad, it's amazing, but it was a struggle to put it into words. Yeah. Yes, Kirk, may I answer your question?
Okay. So I'm the oldest person on this webinar. So I'm 54. Here's the bottom line. I've been doing this for 30 years. You spent 30% of your life going to this place called work. You just want to enjoy going to work. When I park my car out there, I get to do this. Now, that wasn't always the case because I didn't know what this really meant. It was like a subjective, like I want everybody to be happy and I just want everybody to get along. And what I didn't know, I was making everybody miserable by being not clear, trying to make everyone happy type of a thing. So culture is crazy important. And when you do it really well and you get on that path, you will be surprised by how many people around you fight to protect the thing they love so much.
Yeah, I think AB hit the nail on the head too with its shared beliefs. But I think it's the next piece of that too, which is it's shared beliefs and how they come alive through the behaviors of everybody on our team. And so that's where the energy comes from. And that's where the feeling really stems from, is when we're actually seeing it come to life. And here's the thing, it doesn't happen on its own. Like you just said, it's a struggle. And so that's why today we want to talk about not just culture, but leadership, and how being a strong leader can influence the culture in your practice in a positive way or sometimes in a negative way. So we're going to talk to you about this a little bit today so that you can move in the direction of a positive culture and making sure that you can feel that energy moving in the direction of your vision day in and day out. So we want to start by just identifying leadership, because sometimes this is a question we get asked as coaches as well, is, what is leadership? Who are leaders in my practice? So leadership's defined as the position or function of a leader, a person who guides or directs a group. And ultimately, leadership is an art. It doesn't come naturally to everyone. It's a learned skill. And when we're really strong leaders, the most important things that we're doing is setting really clear direction, inspiring the confidence in others, and empowering others to contribute their best efforts. I know we like stories. So I was thinking about this webinar yesterday when I was having lunch with my 6th grader. Could you imagine being in a middle school cafeteria? If you've ever done it, it's something. But it was really super cool to look around the cafeteria. There's like 250, probably 11 to 12-year-olds in one room. And they're all trying to eat in the matter of 35 to 40 minutes. And socialize, of course. And there has to be really strong leadership in an environment like that for things to work well. They have core values on the wall. I took a picture of them. They're the Braves. That's their school mascot. And they have Brave built out with a core value for each letter of Brave. And it's built into different avenues all around the cafeteria. There's leaders standing and present within the cafeteria, and they're not barking orders at all of the kids. They're helping the kids. They're helping the kids navigate problems. I see a little one run up to the assistant principal. The assistant principal is then inspiring confidence in that kiddo to figure out how to go manage that situation that they're dealing with. And so it's interesting how leadership can really show up absolutely everywhere. And it always comes down to clear direction and expectations, inspiring confidence in others, and helping to build other leaders. Kirk, you say all the time, great leaders build other leaders. And then just empowering others to contribute their best efforts. That's really what leadership is all about.
Yeah. I love that story. You got to show me the photo at some point. I got to see that.
Yes, it's good. I did take a picture of it because I'm like, core values in the cafeteria. I love it. So AB, I'll let you take this away. We talk a lot as coaches. We get asked, who's technically leadership, right? They're building a function and accountability chart. Who should I consider a leader? Take it away.
Can I do slides for me, please?
Yes.
So our doctors, our owners, we can have our office managers, our practice administrators, team leads.
And you and I were talking yesterday about, go for it.
Yeah, so we were debated on this because we both feel the same way about it. Everyone is a leader in the practice. You may not have business decision-making leadership responsibilities, but everyone is watching you. I have someone that maybe looks up to me. They may never tell me that, but they're mimicking my behaviors, or they're watching me and looking up to me. And that's a form of leadership. And I do the same all the time. I will watch how someone else is behaving and think, oh, I really like their style. I like the way they speak. I like the way they interact with other people. And to me, that person is a leader. So it doesn't have to have this huge overarching responsibility. But as a responsibility of our own is to pay attention to how we show up, because someone else is watching.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And we kind of have to define this in two different ways. So when we were talking about it, we said, yes, on a function and accountability chart, when we're looking at someone owns this practice, they're truly a leader. The doctors watching today, like, you are a leader in your practice. And we do have these titles or roles or seats within our function and accountabilities charts within our practice that tell us who our labeled leaders are. But I also think we have to think about this, the other side of it too, which is exactly what you just said, where every one of us has an opportunity to show up as a leader in the practice. And so while we're talking about leadership today, and we're going to be speaking primarily to those that are labeled leaders in the practice, everyone can take something away from this to look at how can I as an individual function in leadership within the culture of the organization that I work in. So when we talk about the accountabilities piece of that, there's a lot of things that leaders are accountable for. So when we're looking at those seats in that function accountability chart where our leaders sit, they're establishing practice vision, creating alignment, overseeing patient engagement, systems development, accounts receivable, accounting, compliance, marketing, hiring, firing. There's a lot of responsibilities that our leaders have to uphold, but the most important responsibility is championing culture. What we know through working with practices over and over for years and years, Kirk, 27 years, coaching practices, culture matters the most. That's why we talk about core values. And we talk about core values being the number one most important thing that you can impact in a practice. I was talking with one of my clients recently, and he's been in coaching now going on 3rd year. And he's like, I get it. I get it now. Core values, core purpose, vision. I see now how it impacts the overall long-term success of where my practice is going. So this is the most important responsibility of any leader in the practice, is championing culture. Barrett.
I had to, sorry.
You're welcome to.
And I'll say this from experience, if you're not intentionally championing a culture, you are accidentally championing an accidental culture that you may or may not want.
Yes.
So everyone has a culture, whether they've thought about it or intentionally did it. And if you haven't done core values and you're not intentional about culture, you have an accidental culture, part of which is maybe good and part of which is probably not good.
Oh, that is such a good point. Well worth chiming in. Thanks for that little tidbit. You're right. Because we talked earlier, culture can be positive and culture can be negative. Kirk, you were saying like, I want to get out of the car in the morning and I want to like run up the stairs and in through the door. I don't want to sit in my car thinking, oh, I got to go in there again today. And we've all worked in an organization at some point or another where you've sat in your car, like I just got to get through one day at a time versus AB's like, yes. Versus a culture that's positive and inspiring and motivating and feels good. And you want to race up the stairs and through the door. You can't wait to be there. So yeah, you're championing it one way or another, whether you like it or not. So you might as well do it with some intention because practices don't get better until leaders get better.
Ooh, okay. I'm trying to be quiet, but I can't. So, here's the question. Okay, you can only pick 2. So you guys are amazing coaches. Of all the things you could do to improve your practice and improve your life, you only get to pick 2 things. I think we would all agree. Like, do you want to become a better dentist? Would you place implants? Would you scale it? Would you really become a finance expert? No, I would pick get the leaders healthy and aligned and get this culture better. And as a byproduct, you'll wake up every week going, wow, we did that this week. Don't you guys agree? And actually, you call, all of our coaches called it out. We were commenting, I won't name the name of the practice, but they're crushing it this year. Like they're crushing it. They got rid of all of their insurances and it keeps going like this. And while you could talk a lot about the details, Miranda goes, it's all leadership. It's all leadership. So would you guys agree if you only had to pick 2? And you can disagree with me. I want you to.
No, I think that it is the most important thing in my experience. And I definitely want to hear AB's point too, but I think we all hit that mark where we join, especially as coaches. If I'm speaking as a coach, I'm working with a team. It's never what the team thinks they need. Let's rephrase that. It's rarely what the team thinks they need, but within the first few months of coaching, they realize, oh, okay, it is culture. Whether it's like, we never fight, we love each other. That's a culture problem. Right? If you don't ever have productive conflict, that's a culture problem. And so it doesn't feel like it necessarily, but we discover it. We discover, and then we're able to take things, like you said, just soar. AB, do you run into the same thing with your teams?
Yes. And it's one of the reasons we love what we do is we get to see those little light bulb moments. And then years down the road, we get these emails and messages about how I am so glad you forced me to realize how important culture and leadership was, even on our team of 5 people. It has changed my everyday life. And that is where all the magic happens, as Kirk says.
Absolutely.
I have so many examples of that. One of my clients, I just remember when she and her partner were, finished with their time together. And you can't do it yourself. And she's like, I can do it myself. She got the culture right. She finally was just like live and died by core values and culture. And now she is absolutely killing it, getting out of insurances. And literally every day is just like, I love these ladies. They're so amazing. It's so wonderful to come to work every day.
Well, and once you have those core values in place, it makes every decision that felt so heavy before so much lighter. Because there's this filter that takes all of the second guessing and over analyzing and lack of security and certainty away. And you say, does it align with these, 4 or 5 things that I think are the most important things about my practice? And it just takes a lot of that weight off of us when we're making decisions about our team members, about things we want to introduce into the practice, our hours, our schedule. One of the things that feeds into those core values is vision. And so in Q1 of this year, our study club, we always use a book as part of our study club, and it was The Work of Leaders. And we're just going to briefly touch on the fact that we talked around core values are super important, but we also need to have a vision. As a leader, especially a doctor owner leader, you really have to stop and think about, where do I want this practice to go? There has to be a charted course for your team to align around to help support you to help get there. And so there's a few resources that in the follow-up from this we'll share with you around crafting a vision or creating a vision, stages of change around building alignment, and then some systems that help us to execute that. But in the Work of Leaders, they talk about the VAE model. And as leaders, we need to craft a vision. We need to imagine an improved future for our practice. What do we want that path to look like? And then we have to build alignment. We have to work with our team as leaders to make sure they know what that is, for one, understand how they play a role in impacting it so that we can all be inspired down that path together, and then get boots on the ground executing that vision. And usually that execution that's the stuff that people focus on most of the time. It's the day-to-day. It's the, how do I stop cancellations? How do I get more production in my schedule? What do I need to do with, so-and-so who's not performing? That's our execution phase. But if we work backwards from that and start back at what's our vision, what's our core values, what kind of purpose, what are we here to serve, and then get our team aligned around that, there's so many less issues down in the execution phase of what we're doing in the practice. So when we look at this quarter, we're going to be working in this new study club quarter with To the Top around our primal leadership is going to be our book of the quarter. And this is an amazing book that helps us to look at our own selves as leaders. Take a look in the mirror. We say all the time, people don't leave practices, they leave bosses, right? They leave leaders. And so we're going to just encourage everyone who's watching today and anyone that joins us for our To the Top study club over the summer to take a look in the mirror at what type of leader you are. Learn a little bit about your own self and what realm you fall within the emotional intelligence quotient. Really working on your leadership in the same way that you're going to work on other systems within your practice. Barrett, you mentioned earlier the investment that people make in CE. Dentists spend so much money on clinical CE. Valid. It's really, really important to stay up to date, stay current, make sure we're advancing our skills. I would argue that it's equally as important to invest in learning who you are as a person, who you are as a leader, how you impact your team, and how you're going to take your team where you need to go. And so, raising his hand.
Whoa.
Triggered something in Barrett's dentist heart. Go.
Just because I lived this. So you had that previous slide, vision, alignment, execution. All of us go and spend money and invest in new clinical techniques, and we want to execute it. But we don't necessarily have built the culture or have nurtured the leadership skills to be able to share the vision and the why with your team, align that team on that alignment and why, and then execute this new clinical protocol. Usually, and every dentist here, if they're honest, can attest to the fact, like, I just spent $5,000 for 4 days at XYZ Institute. This is amazing. I'm going to come back and I'm going to implement it. And we're like, hey, team, we're doing this. And the team goes, yeah, no, we're not. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, well, that was a waste. And you have this beautiful binder that you look at once in a while of information. You're like, I didn't implement any of that. And it's all has nothing to do with the clinical skills. It has nothing to do with the course. It has all to do with the leadership around vision and alignment.
Yeah. And now I'm having fun with you guys. So just but I went to the $5,000 course and you said, but I got you guys a gift. I got scanners while I was at the course. Do you know what I mean? Because I was thinking of you, we put so much money into the things. And again, there's a legitimate argument or case for that. And then I always say, what's your focus? Like, is that where you want to go? Who knows?
When I sold my practice, I easily had over $20,000 of technology on the shelf in my unfinished basement that never got. I'm looking around like, that was $5,000, never used it. That was $7,000. Tried it for a month, never used it. So, and it was all back to this. Like, I didn't have the skills at the time to deliver the leadership to get it in play.
Love it. I don't love that for you, but I love that you recognize it now. Good job, Behrendt. You're a great leader. This is actually kind of fun. We're going to talk about the 6 leadership styles. And we, Adriana, have 2 of our leaders here on this webinar with us today. So this is going to be a good time.
Is there one called Work in Progress? That's number 7.
All of them.
That's what
all of them are work in progress.
Absolutely.
So let's take a look at these 6 leadership styles per the concept from Primal Leadership. So the first leadership style is a visionary. And Kirk, clearly you are a visionary. So visionaries inspire and guide their teams. The energy and enthusiasm and forward focus that comes from a visionary leader, it's hard to not be inspired as a team member to want to help support that person on their mission of where they want to go. They rally support. They build around the brand and really excel in taking people in a new direction and being innovative. And our visionary would like to chime in.
Yeah. So I've got a few things. Like, people always say, what would you do differently? I mean, I love my life. And if I could go back, there would be one thing for sure I would do. I would invest in finding out who I was earlier in my career. So my daughter's 23 and she's taking all these disc tests. She's like, I'm taking the disc test. I'm like, I'm so happy for you, because I would have saved a lot of stomach lining. I would have learned that I don't finish projects. I've tried to finish you guys should come to my house. You're going to see all these things that aren't finished. You know what I mean? So I learned that I was good at a few things. The other thing about being a visionary, a lot of people celebrate that, and there is celebrate. But it is a disease in some cases. It's a disease that doesn't stop. It bothers you all the time. You see something and you're like, oh, that could be better. That could be better. And there are times you just got to go, this is good right now. And that's why you need the counter to the vision. You need somebody who can discern that and go, listen, that's all a great idea, but that's like 2 years from now, because I'm not even really here at this webinar. I'm 6 months in the future. I just got into a time machine and thought I'd visit you guys today.
You just showed up.
That's a joke, but it's not a joke. It's really, and if Sarah was on this webinar, gosh, she would add a lot. But that's her number one complaint is like, okay, it doesn't always, like, it's good. Today's good. Like, this is good. And
Present.
I always want it to be a little bit
your
better.
new word, Kirk, is present.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what we know from Primal Leadership is that this is the most strongly positive leadership style for team culture, as an impact on team culture. Now, you had a great point of it has its downsides. Each one of them does. Sincerity is crucial. If a leader lacks in the belief of the vision themselves, seems disconnected from the impact on the daily realities associated with the team, it's going to diminish the effectiveness of that leadership style. So, for example, like you were just saying, like, I live in the future, but right, your team lives in right now. And so there has to be this emotional awareness, and we're going to talk at the end of the webinar around self-awareness, self-regulation, social regulation and awareness, and being able to take this leadership style, understand it about yourself, the positives and the negatives, and how then to implore that leadership style out to the team to make sure that it stays in that realm of being strongly positive. The next one is coaching. And so obviously, we have an affinity for this as coaches, right, AV? And you guys know, anyone who knows me knows I love Ted Lasso, so he had to make an appearance today. But coaching fosters performance by unlocking human potential. Coaching leadership says, I want to make leaders out of everyone on my team. I see potential that other people may not see. I'm going to look on the bright side. I'm going to look for the things that I think are strong within you and see how I can amplify those. It's looking to grow individuals through connection. There is an inspirational component to this, and focusing on setting challenging goals, providing constructive feedback. Now, mind you, just like with any other leadership style, there can be some negatives if we don't understand ourselves well. So if you have a lack of genuine interest or empathy in others, it's not going to be as effective. If you're leading in a coaching style to get the goal, but not necessarily to develop the players on the field, then you're not going to have as much effectiveness as if you're creating a team that's working towards that whole goal. And that's what really works around the coaching style, is making sure that it's not just about this end goal, this target, but how can each individual be strengthened so that they can build within the team and work as a team. And this is also highly positive impact on culture when leaders lead from this coaching style. Affiliative is another style that really speaks more to feelings. And so we're starting to hit the middle ground. We had a couple of highly positive impact on culture. This is right in the middle. So affiliative leaders tend to prioritize harmony. AB, you might agree with me, but this is a lot of our doctor owners, I think, sit in this affiliative land of wanting to make sure that they hear everyone's feelings, take everyone's feelings into consideration when they're making decisions. I don't want anybody to be upset. We don't want to rock the boat. And this can be really positive, but we also have to be careful that we're not negating providing really important accountability, constructive feedback, because we're too concerned about hurting someone's feelings or about our own feelings and how it might feel to provide that feedback. If you're a diagnosed wuss, isn't that what Kirk always says? It's hard. It's hard to affect someone else's feelings in a way that you perceive might be negative. So it is a really positive leadership style. It's important for people to know you care, but there's that other side of it, that if we don't have the awareness around this leadership style, it can be a negative and it can be perceived as a negative amongst the team.
Yeah, clinically diagnosed as a wuss. So
love it. All right. So our next leadership style is democratic. You can see by the image there, this is giving everyone a voice. So these are leaders that really want to make collective decisions. They want to have consensus drive the needle. And so it's less impact on really being perceived as what you would think is a true leader, someone who steps up and says, this is where we're going. And so there's a lot of pros and cons around democratic leadership style. It does foster transparency, a sense of community. The culture can be really positive in an office that's led by a democratic leader, because you're going to get different perspectives that you might not otherwise hear from or get if you have someone who's a bit more commanding. However, we have to be really careful that this can slow things down. When we're waiting for consensus, it really can be time consuming, and it can make processes slower within the practice to make change. So if a doctor comes back from a CE and they have a new piece of equipment and a new idea, if we're waiting for everyone's opinion on it and then everyone to decide how we're going to do it, we're probably going to have it on the shelf for years and years or forever, versus, being able to have someone who really does drive the needle on that. So relying too heavily on consensus, it also can erode confidence. If it can make a doctor leader seem as if they're not confident in leading the team, maybe they don't know what to do, when ultimately they're just trying to take everyone's opinion into consideration, but it can be perceived as a lack of confidence in their ability to really lead or know what to do. So this is still considered a positive style when impacting culture, but there are caveats that we have to be really aware of around that self-awareness piece if we're a democratic leader. So there's two more. These, as you can imagine, are starting to drive us down past the positive, more likely to sway into the negative. So pace setting. A pace setting leader, if you think about what is a pace setter, I don't run. NASCAR, maybe, if any. I'm from the South. We know NASCAR. There's the pace setting car, right? It's the car that's out front, that's getting things going and always taking the lead, telling people where we're going, where the cars need to follow. So this person, this type of leader, is looking at hitting targets, driving high performance. We want to win. How are we going to be excellent on a consistent basis? And it's really suited for environments that are innovative and have a fast-paced growth mindset. However, it can be really highly negative on a culture. Not always, but it can be more often than not because it's a misutilized leadership style. If there's a really strong emphasis on results over people, your team won't feel as cared about or as important or as valued in the process. You can't look at employees and negate their development, their role in your vision and how to get there. If you just set the vision and say, let's go, and they just feel like they're along for the ride, it's not going to feel good to show up to work. Your team members aren't going to get excited to jump out of the car and run into the office. So we do have to recognize that while it's really important to have targets and goals and things that we're striving for, we do have to make sure that we're building the team into that process.
Miranda, am I supposed to be sweating right now?
Oh, Barrett. For the record, everyone listening, we have amazing leaders here at ACT. So Barrett, you shouldn't be
I'm a
sweating
total
at all.
pace setter. I'm a total pace setter.
But you care about people. You care about all of us.
Yes. But let's get it done. All right.
Well, the cool thing,
Moving right along.
you can use the whole emotional withdrawal. He's making enough emotional withdrawals so that when he goes into hyperdrive, you don't take it personally.
No.
And that's a good thing that you have to understand. There's got to be a certain level of conflict where you go, I know him. He's just doing what he does, and I still love him. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's another great point. I'm a high achiever personality style. I love a goal. I love a challenge. So I want a leader who's going to challenge and push and set those targets high. But I do also, I'm a human being who would like a little accolade now and then, or a private conversation to let me know that you get that I'm a human resource, right? And not just a resource. And you do that very, very well, Barrett. So just relax over there. The last style is commanding. And so this leadership style prioritizes results through decisive action. And like, I just picture, right? Like the iron fist, like leading with the iron fist. This is suitable for situations that do require a lot of clear direction, tough decisions, larger organizations where like you have to make quick paced decisions because there's 600 people in your organization and we don't have time to run it through every loop in the chain. This person has the fortitude to make bold and often unpopular decisions. You know, it's a tough job when you think about being commanding. However, there's positives to it, but it's most often a negative influence on culture. So while it's effective in emergencies, it can affect the team and risk low morale, stress, talent loss. If your desire to drive is higher than your desire to connect with your team, you're going to have turnover, right? The offices that say like, man, they just keep coming and going. What do we know about those people? I actually just read a book. It's mid, but you could read it. It's quick read. It's called Difficult Conversations Don't Have to Be Difficult. And there was a story in this book about a leader who was so focused on selling their business and meeting the board's needs in order to get this business sold that they stopped having one-on-ones. They stopped making connection with their team. They started just this commanding style of decision-making and pushing and goal setting to the point where one after one, the executive team came and said, I'm done. You don't even know that my son's been sick for the last month and I've been struggling to like keep my head above water because you don't even look at me as a person anymore. And so that's really the fallout that can happen with this commanding style. It's important to be aggressive about wanting to get to your goals, but it's really important to make sure that you're fostering relationships. And there's a note here in this slide, you'll see this can be a very fear-based leadership style. And if people are just responding and doing what they're doing because they're afraid of you, like that's not a positive impact on your team culture.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. And I'm kind of stuck on the fact that you called the book a mid. Like what is that your new rating system? What was that?
That's my,
it's like middle of the road, right?
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
I forgot that you guys aren't in the 12 to 15 age group that I hang out with at home on a consistent basis.
It sounded like teenage speak.
Yeah, mid.
That's me, just keeping it hip.
Yeah.
It was mid, it was mediocre. It was like middle of the road, quick read, not amazing, a few good page turns and turn down with marks in it. I love that so much. Yes, mid. Mm-hmm. My millennials and whatnot on this webinar know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so I challenge you to think about those styles. And Barrett, clearly you've been doing this the whole time. What does it look like on the other side of me, right? How do I show up as a leader? What would your team say was your leadership style? Like after you watch this, think about this, go back and reflect on how do I show up as a leader, right? What would my team say is my leadership style? And be really honest with yourself, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. And I know AB is going to chime in here because she loves this concept as well, because this is where self-awareness comes in. So I'll just speak to IQ versus EQ. And I'm going to let AB speak a little bit around self-awareness. So an intelligence quotient is what we all know, IQ. We've heard about it our whole lives. It measures our level of cognitive intelligence. It's a traditional predictor of our potential. It's technical skills and abilities. A lot of times we say like we're born with it, right? You kind of have this capacity and that's your capacity when it comes to intelligence or IQ. But EQ is different. Your emotional quotient that measures your emotional intelligence, it can be learned and developed over time. That score can go up. It's about managing your emotions, managing relationships. And if you work on this and invest time and effort into this, just like you do with your clinical skills, you can improve your EQ over time. So let's just talk a little bit about what is emotional intelligence. So AB, I'm going to let you kick this off.
Well, this one's a big time favorite of mine. And personally, it's something that I've worked on for years myself and will work on for the rest of my life. And it's really how I show up. How do others see me? And it is a gift, like you said earlier, when someone does have that tough conversation with you and says, hey, this is how it feels on the other side of you. And, I'm one of those people that would love to wear like a little mask because sometimes my face says things that I'm not saying. And, I feel like that David meme from Schitt's Creek all the time. Every time I see it come through, I'm like, oh God, is that me?
We always say, fix your face.
Yes, fix your face. It's the only face I got. I don't know. But it's self-awareness. And it's also getting rid of your ego to say like, hey, I need help. Like, tell me how I'm showing up. If you want to know what it's like on the other side of you, ask people. Really, because it's truly just owning who you are, wanting to be better, or wanting just to be different, possibly. In people's reactions to you.
Yeah.
That should be your first inkling. But some people are very low on the self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk's like,
this is so important too. You guys, I don't know. We haven't told the story before, but like when I was going through Dale Carnegie training way back in my 20s, they used to tell the story of a post. And when you put a nail in the post, like sometimes you put words into the room or with people and you can say, I'm sorry and take it back, which means you pull the nail out, but the hole is still there. And so as you start to get older and mature and you grow and develop these things and you have a coach and you have a great leadership team around you, they can give you feedback to go, I'm not putting the nail in the post today. I use an acronym every day. I use it probably 10 times a day. You can use it too. It's called WAIT. 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 Why am I talking? Okay, there's no reason for me to talk right here. And then one more thing I'll just put into this. This is so big. It's like Covey said, the magic of the world happens between stimulus and response. There are going to be things that happen to you and you have to like take a breath and go, this is not a big deal. I'm just going to collect my thoughts. I've been through this a couple of times. I'm not going to freak out like I did last time. And I'm just going to think a little bit better as I go into this situation. So I don't think you could ever stop doing the work that is so valuable in this. Don't you guys think?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, completely agree. And AB hit the nail on the head with what I have here. It requires honest feedback. When you're looking at self-awareness, which is the first component of emotional intelligence, you're wanting to look at yourself and be able to name the mood or feeling or emotion that you're experiencing in this moment. Like one of the biggest challenges that people have is how can you improve how you're reacting to something if you don't even know what you're feeling right now? And so we'll talk a little bit about how you can impact different stages of this, primarily self-awareness in just a minute. But the biggest thing is just being able to acknowledge and name what's happening right now. What is the feeling that's causing this reaction within me? We all have those moments where your chest gets warm. You can feel yourself getting flooded. I often use when I'm talking with teams around like the assistant, no offense assistants, because I bow down to you. I can't do it. I've tried. has to get up again because something's not in the room that was supposed to be there. And you feel it, doctor, like you feel the rage inside of your soul. Barrett's nodding along. Stopping in that moment and recognizing, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling that right now? How is that impacting my performance right now? I got to get this under control. So step one is just being able to name that mood. And sometimes you don't recognize you're in a mood. And that's where feedback really matters. When other people can tell you and help you to understand what's going on, that there's something different. I can see it. I sense this. I feel that. And just being aware of that change.
Can I add one thing, Miranda?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't imagining you saying no to that, but I was going to, one thing I'll just say is like, somebody might be listening to this going, okay, well, I get it, but you guys don't understand what I'm dealing with. I'm so stressed out. Here's the thing. This is really important work, but when you're paper thin on margin, which means the difference between your limit and load, you're 50% of the human being you could be. That's why we talk about the gaps here. That's why we try to, relieve the pressure of margin. When I have no money, I'm telling you, I want to be a good person, but I'm biting my lip. When you don't get any sleep, you are biting your lip. This is really important work, but you have to create enough margin with your team, with your systems, with your gaps. I can't say that enough. Like that you can just go, okay, we're good. And you can fully step into these things.
Totally. And then once you have that self-awareness, now it's what you're talking about, Kirk, right? Like responding versus reacting. So this is your ability to control your own impulses and moods. It requires coping mechanisms. Self-regulation allows you to respond and not react. Take a moment before you act. When you've developed this, you can manage and be accountable for your actions and feelings. Like, I know I'm feeling this way. And what do I do when I'm feeling this way? How can I feel better? Go ahead, AB.
Miranda gave a really good example when we were talking about this webinar a few days ago. And it always reminds me too, how many times have you typed out a text as a reply and then you go backspace, 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 delete the whole thing? Did it need to be said? Nope. And that's when you know you are doing the work and it's working. Sometimes I'll tell team members, if you want to go and vent something, their ears aren't trash cans. So if you're just going to vent, maybe write it out, get it out of your head, wad it up, throw it in the trash. So just find a way to get it out of you, but maybe it really doesn't need to land on someone else.
I love that so much. That happens a lot in the dental office. And then you don't know who it's landing on. It might be landing on someone who has really high level of emotional intelligence, who can take that information that you're dropping off and just kind of let it roll off and move on. And it might be landing on someone who doesn't. And now that culture is permanently impacted by that vent session in a negative way. And so coping. Go ahead.
This might be fun for our second podcast, Stories in Dentistry. I said Barrett epic texts. Like he's probably got some of those saved. I don't do it anymore, but
you can trust that Barrett knows what to do with that text.
Oh yeah. So I don't send them anymore. I'm like, this can wait till Monday. And I would go back and look at what I said. And I'm like, wow, I really nailed how I felt. And the brilliance I have behind this problem. And he's going to read it and feel so blessed on a Sunday.
So blessed. You know what I mean? Well, but it is a form of journaling. So good for you. You don't send it anymore. But you have to get it out in some way. Take a walk. Sunshine in the great outdoors does wonders for people when it comes to regulating our emotions. Write it down. You can even go in the bathroom and say it out loud. You're mad. Fine. What am I mad about? What am I going to do? But you have to get it out in some way and cope with it in some way. The other thing that you can think about is mindfulness practice. And with mindfulness practice, you're wanting to shift from that emotional mind to the logical mind. Do some math. I know it sounds crazy. Do some math. When my son was little, he struggled with emotional balancing, right? As all kids do. And they get irrational. They just get kind of crazy and you can't even talk to them. And we'd lay in his bed and I'm like, how many orange Nerf guns do you have on the wall? And he would count and tell me 4. Okay. How many blue Nerf guns do you have on the wall? And we'd go through And by the time we got done counting up the different colored Nerf guns on the wall, he wasn't crying anymore. He was breathing softer. He wasn't in a panic, emotional, heightened, flooded state anymore, because our mind can't be in both places at one time. I see your hand up, Barrett. Oh no, you're muted.
Let me quick tie that. You even gave me an instruction on how to unmute myself.
So the Zoom slide was for you.
Yes, it was. So I read something recently, and it really ties in core values into emotional intelligence. So it's another way to look at emotional intelligence. So we all have personalities, and part of our personality is this basic instinct, how we think, feel, and act. It's instinctual. It just happens. And true emotional intelligence is being able to highlight our core values over this basic instinctual way to react in our interactions with people. And so that also ties back to Kirk when he says, wait, because really what we're trying to do there is lengthen the time period between stimulus and response. And the longer the time period between stimulus and response, the healthier the response will be. The shorter the time span, the more unhealthy it potentially will be, because we are reacting in our rear brain versus what's the right word? Versus self-managing and being able to express the type of interaction we want. So
yeah, that's a great point. When we're emotionally flooded, and something we do in emotional intelligence world, a demonstration is like you have a clear glass of water, and that's you stable. And then you squirt a little, red dye in there when you get triggered by something, and you squirt a little more red dye in there, and you squirt a little more red dye in there. And the thicker and redder that water gets, you don't have the clarity that you had before, because you're flooded now. You don't have that clarity. And so how do we get back to clarity? Well, you got to trickle that clarity in over time. And as you do that, and that water clears back up, we're now looking through a clear lens again. And we're not in that emotionally flooded state anymore, because we've given more time between that trigger, that stimulus, and that response.
Yeah, Miranda, that is so brilliant. If you don't do that, that water looks more like red wine, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to go in that direction today. So you find vices to compensate for how you feel, to make yourself, what Brene Brown would say, numb. Like, I can't even deal with it. I'm just going to go numb.
Absolutely. So the earliest, easiest steps to affect emotional intelligence are around ourself. So we're going to kind of skim through the social side, but as a leader, this piece is really important as well. The social awareness is your ability to understand the emotional state and the moods of other people and your effect on other people. It's really valuable in a collaborative work environment. Basically, it's, can you read a room? How well do you read a room? There's some people who just naturally are gifted at kind of reading a room and getting to know the vibe or the energy of people. And other people have to work a little bit harder at it. But there's strategies that you can do to help improve your ability to have a higher level of social awareness. And really basic is just listening skills, having humility, building on your active listening skills on a consistent basis. And the stronger your social awareness becomes, the stronger your relationship management or social management will become. This is your ability to influence others. When you're understanding the moods of others, you can read the room, and you're leading a group. This is when you're in front of the room at your team meeting, your monthly team meeting, your weekly team meeting, and you can tell the energy's off. You can feel it. And so when you have a really strong level as a leader of relationship management, a high level and high EQ, you're going to be able to take that group where that feeling is off. You're going to be able to pinpoint, identify what's going on, and impact that vibe or energy with your own influence of mood and energy. And a lot of it is the harder part about this is it's not tangible to kind of grade where you are like it is when you go and learn a new clinical skill. This takes a lot of time, and you tend to learn where you're at with this through experience, through bad experiences, through good experiences, what went well, what didn't go well. It requires trust and consistency, and it requires you to reflect back on an experience and say, what do I think went well about that? I feel like I lost the room when this happened, or when so-and-so started talking, everything went downhill. And then how could I have changed the dynamic in that situation? The first step in improving your practice culture through leadership is to have self-awareness and to develop your self-awareness to the highest level possible. So when you do that, You're establishing stronger trust with your team. You're going to have improved learning, improved development. People are going to be more vested in where you're going as a vision. You're going to be able to be more others focused. You're going to make clearer decisions and have an elevated level of overall culture when you as a leader are aware of your leadership style, your moods, your emotions, and your reactions. So I'm going to let AB jump in here with what are some ways that you can improve self-awareness over time. So you just ask yourself a few questions. Oops, I went the wrong way.
I like that one too.
I know. There we go.
Yeah. And this is a great one. And as long as I've been working with Kirk and Barrett and Miranda, they are great also to bounce this off of. This is how I'm feeling. Is that valid? And they're like, no, I think you're just making that up. Okay, perfect. I probably was overreacting. Because a lot of times we react the way we do because of us, not because of the other person. And so find a good friend that's really honest with you and have those conversations. But just, ask yourself, what am I experiencing right now? Like, did I get mad? So am I angry? Am I sad? Am I disgusted? Am I looking at a gross picture? No. But does the situation frustrate you and make you so angry? And then Miranda, she's really taught me how to use this wheel more. And I really love it because when you feel angry, but are you really just let down? Did the situation that E minus R, what we thought was going to happen didn't really happen. We didn't communicate well about it. So now I'm actually just, I don't know, I just actually felt let down a little bit. All right, dust it off, keep it rolling.
Yeah, I think a word wheel like this is a great thing to have in your office, hanging on the wall. If you're an office manager, a doctor owner, a leader in the practice where you're really working on your emotional intelligence, your self-awareness, take this, laminate it, hang it in your office. When you're having one of those moments, look at it. And I always say start in the middle. And this is what AB was just talking about. Start in the middle. Those are your most common emotions that people say they're experiencing: happy, sad, mad, afraid, right? But if you look at a word wheel like this and take it all the way out, there's so many caveats and nuances to what those feelings are that it might be something very different than what you thought it was. And so really taking a minute, and this also helps with that emotional flooding because now our logical mind is kicking in while we're doing this evaluation. We're having to stop, process, think, and put a name to this visceral reaction that we're having, and allows us to then be able to move forward and respond in a way that's not a reaction to that kind of unknown fear. What you got, Kirk?
Oh, I love this stuff. I feel like I shouldn't even come to the next one because it's so, but this is so good in the self-awareness piece. I would argue it's very hard to figure this out on your own. So don't ever try to just do it on your own. You do need the feedback of valuable people around you. If you don't have a coach, that's silly. You have to have a coach. A coach can cut through it right away. I said this to somebody that's, we get to be your coach. I don't work in your practice. I don't need to know the stories. I want to help the practice for the benefit of the practice. That's one thing. That's why a lot of people go to therapy, because they need feedback on how their intention and impact. And I'm really bad at that. I think I'm like, oh, my intention's really good, but the impact was bad. And Barrett's really good. And so are you guys going, listen, when you say that, it sounds like we're not doing our job. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I wanted. He goes, that's what we hear. And that's really good feedback. Or you have a great spouse who's like, okay, the other night when you had a few beers, you went off on this whole dentistry thing and you dominated the conversation for an hour on people who care less about what I was like telling my whole life story about dentistry and how amazing it is. And like one of them fell asleep while you were talking. You didn't even notice it. So you do need somebody to be watching you while you communicate to go, okay, cut it off. You don't need to tell everybody that. Never mind.
So on that note, we're going to move on. No, I'm just joking. That's really funny. And isn't it great though, when you go to a dinner party and someone else also loves dentistry? Isn't that like the best thing ever? Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing.
No,
because then you have someone that you can talk to about it all night long.
No, because it has tentacles and it goes in every direction. And before you know it, the whole night was about your scanner and like how the plugs fit in and all that kind of stuff. And never mind.
So AB already mentioned this, but like we talked earlier, why am I experiencing this? How's it impacting my ability to perform? So once we know what that feeling is, we can name that mood. We're getting further away from the stimulus in terms of time. We're going to be more likely to process through these questions and respond. So some final thoughts around this is reflect on your leadership style. Like we talked about the 6 different styles that come from the book Primal Leadership. Reflect on those styles. How would your team describe your leadership? This is your first step really in self-awareness as a leader and really identifying what type of leader you are. You could even ask them if you really wanted to promote some feedback and see where you're at. But really just start owning your emotions. Remember that self-awareness, it's the first step in shifting who you are and how you're going to impact your practice culture through your leadership. And you have to look at your strengths, and then you also have to look at your limitations or your weaknesses. You learn so much more from them, but it does put you in a very vulnerable place. You have to be willing to put some humility in place and step aside and look from the outside in and try not to take it personally. AB, what final takeaways do you have? Adriana Booth, by the way. I know I keep saying AB.
So long. Yeah, it's good. Oh gosh, I love this so much. So I'm really hopeful. And I need to just change my email to ab@actdental.com, right? So feel free to reach out. I know any of us today would love to hear from you, but I would love to hear what your takeaways are. So action item for anyone on or who listens in the future. Tell us what you think your leadership style is. We'd love to talk about it and work through it with you, because I feel like sometimes we flow between a few of them. Mm-hmm. I've just started this book, which is our July book. I got the audio version and listened to it a few days ago. And now I'm going to have to get a paper version. I need to fold pages and highlight and do all the things. So get that book and just dig in.
Dig in. I love it. We mentioned the book. It's going to be for our To the Top sessions this summer, which is around healthy leaders equals a happy team. And really, how do we understand who we are as leaders, develop emotional intelligence? We're going to actually have a couple of new resources that will be available around that time for our BPA community members and for our To the Top and coaching community. And so we definitely would love to see you there and join us so that we can continue to learn and grow from you also, whether it be in person or online at the BPA in our community. We learn so much from each other when we're in that community together, doctors and team members asking great questions. All of our coaches, Kirk Behrendt, are in there as well, responding and helping people out. So maybe I'll put a little post in there to get the conversation going. I'm curious what everyone thinks their leadership style is now. And hey, administrative team today, any questions in the chat before we wrap things up?
I loved it. That was so great. Great job, everybody.
No questions in the chat that I see.
No. I've tried to answer a couple. There was someone that Megan asked about where to find this. So I linked it into the chat if anyone wants to pull that link really quick so they can find the word wheel.
Love it. Yes. And there's several versions of the word wheel. So find one that's like overloaded. There's some pretty basic ones, but like if you really want to dig into this process, like that, the one that AB shared that has just like, it takes it as far out as you could want to go. I love that. Sweet. Any final thoughts from Kirk and Behrendt?
Yeah, I just, the conversation will continue back in the BPA. I love that idea of having poll. And then also too, if you're listening to this and you're in dentistry, the number one problem you're going to have for the rest of your career, and it will never go away, is how to find, grow, and keep great people. The problem with the world is we don't give our best energy things that matter most. And if you're in dentistry, I would tell you, invest heavily in yourself, becoming a better leader. Invest heavily in your culture. Invest heavily in creating happy leaders, happy team. And you're going to see one of the best ever. Miranda Beeson facilitate this process. We're all going to be there. You're also going to be learning from other people in the To the Top Study Club. It's a hugely valuable day for you. Do not miss it. So join us for To the Top Study Club.
Love it. Behrendt, what'd you learn about yourself today as a leader?
Not good stuff. I got work to do. I'm just kidding.
Well, I hope you took the positive away, which is we think you're a great leader.
Yeah, thank you.
Where's the category for perfect? I need that one.
There you go. Love it.
Except for when it comes to...
Yeah, I didn't see my style up there. Still waiting for it. I love emotional intelligence. It's the missing ingredient in great leadership. And It's a soft science that has very tangible results. And so I don't want anyone to shy away because it's a little intangible and fluffy. It's amazing. And you can't ask people on your team to be something that you yourself are not willing to go after. And so we can't I couldn't ask my dental team to be cool, calm, and collected when I'm freaking out. We can't ask them to be better leaders than we ourselves are. And so we got to do the work at home first.
Love it. As goes the leader, goes the team.
All right, Miranda, take us home. What are your thoughts, takeaways from today?
Oh, just that there. As goes the leader, goes the team. I firmly believe that the biggest problems that happen in a practice, and Kirk always says it's not your problems that are the problems, it's how you think about your problems. And that's true. It's how you think about your problems, because if you're thinking about the problem, that execution piece, we have to back up several steps and look at our vision, look at our core values, look at our core purpose. Are we making the right calls? And how am I showing up every single day? It's not always about what everybody else is doing and how they're showing up. It's usually a reflection on me as the leader. And so, it starts with leadership first. It starts at the top. We have to be aligned and self-aware. So if nothing else, just go forth and become more self-aware. Thank you, you guys.
Go forth.
You like that?
And may the force.
I command you.
Yes. I love it.
This has been fun.
It's been really
great job. Great job.
Afternoon with you all.
Appreciate you hanging out with me, folks. And AB, it was so nice having you on the webinar today.
Yeah.
Sweet. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.